Hello, and you are listening to FPcast, the podcast for Frivolous Pursuits, where we bullshit about the week in pop culture. I am Luke.
And I'm Jacinta.
And this week we are talking about how...
The plague.
I know, not a lot of good news this week, I gotta say. You know, I'd love to tell everybody a wonderful, happy thing, especially after, like, when we miss an episode of this show, I genuinely miss it. It feels like a long time since we've done this. We did not do last week's episode for a couple of reasons, really. One, we're both quite ill still.
Yes. So if you hear a few kind of background coughs, we've been trying to hold it in, but there may be a few that escape during the episode.
Or strange edits. That'll be why. And also, last week was Supanova, last weekend, and normally we go in there guns a-blazing and we spend the whole weekend at the convention and take it all in and take lots of photos and do a full episode about it, but we didn't cover it this year.
No. We did get we didn't get media passes this time.
We did not.
Which was, like, fine. I don't really care.
I disagree.
Well, whatever. But it was actually really nice to not have to be there all day and to just go there, do the stuff you want to do, and then just go home whenever.
Yeah.
Like, that was cool, actually.
It was definitely that sort of sense of freedom, but then I guess going forward, I don't know why we would bother covering the event if we're not embraced as media. And this is one of those things that I want to kind of stress to everybody. And it's not a big deal either way, to be honest. But when we do sort of say, oh, you know, and like us on Facebook and everything, I know that becomes the sort of rote part at the end of the show and it doesn't mean much. But unfortunately, it means a lot to these organizations and PR people and studio people and all that sort of stuff. They are just interested in numbers, which I strongly disagree with, because as a podcast, I think our social media numbers like Twitter, Facebook and stuff are irrelevant because we're not producing content for those things. I mean, if you go to our Twitter, it's really just links to the show. If I have something incredibly hilarious I want to say about a film, I'll say it on the show. Or if I want to impart some information to you guys, I'm going to say it on the show. But for a lot of these organizations, they just look at the numbers. So if you ever want to follow us on Instagram or like us on Twitter or whatever, you're not doing it because there's a lot of great content, although Instagram's not bad. But do it just because it helps us get access to other things. But that said, like, I don't mind being a rogue element because... You know, whether we get invited to their cons, whether we get to go to premieres of movies or not, we can still do all that stuff ourselves. We still see a movie every week. Like, no one can stop us from going to conventions, seeing movies, and saying what we honestly think about them. And that's why we do the show, and that's what I'm proud of. So, all that other stuff, if you don't want us there, fuck ya, we're going to do it anyway. On our terms, because we're like the resistance or the rebels or some of those guys.
Yeah, nearly exactly like that.
Yeah.
The only thing I felt a bit bad about on the weekend is normally I would do a big gallery of all the cosplayers and stuff, and I'm not doing that for, you know, the convention or anything like that. It's for the people who are dressing up so they can have nice photos and stuff. And it was a real shame I didn't get to do that. And that's not because of the media pass or anything like that. It's just I couldn't last the whole day. The cosplay competitions were right at the end of the day and I was dying. So I am sorry to anyone who was looking forward to those photos, but I put my health before your little costumes.
And it's a lot of work, and I feel like if they don't come to the party to some degree, then... Because we usually, like, work our asses off to crank that episode out in time, and then you spend days doing the images. I just think it's bullshit. I think, you know, a lot of local podcasts and things have come and gone. We've been around forever. This is episode 194. We're heading towards our 200th show. I'm very pleased with what we do, and I feel that there's a legacy there. We've been around. We, you know, I think produce a consistently good show, so fuck it.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll do our own thing. But, so welcome back, everybody. Really good to be back. We obviously missed 2 weeks of news. We're going to catch up on a couple of little bits and pieces that are of interest. Then there's quite a few trailers. And then we're going to review Transformers The Last Night, which we didn't put up with last week in our fever dreams, but today we saw it. We haven't even really discussed it yet.
Well, there's not a lot to discuss,
we
really.
were pretty numbed by it, I think, in the car. I like a show when we can get positive and really talk about things that we recommend and that are exciting. I don't think there's going to be a lot of that today. I think it's going to be genuinely a pretty negative show as we are here coughing and it's raining outside. But watch some good TV anyway, and maybe talk about that a little bit at the end. But news that we missed, there was that whole Han Solo film craziness where Miller and Lord, who were directing it, they're the guys that gave us the 21 Jump Street films and the Lego movie, were fired from the film. Pretty
late.
Yeah,
filming too.
They've been shooting since February, I think. So, although there's a lot of reshoots scheduled, and Ron Howard, the old Richie Cunningham himself, has stepped in and is taking over and going to try and fix it. And it seems that it was almost the opposite of the Rogue One situation, where they felt that it was too... Like, they felt that didn't have the fun and whimsy of Star Wars, and they wanted to lighten it up a bit with the reshoots, and this is the opposite. They're trying to ground it more.
Yeah.
Apparently Miller and Lord are making a big comedy out of it, and it was getting more and more sort of off-story and more improvised as it went, and they
and the
shut it down.
Comparisons I'd heard being drawn were to, like, Jim Carrey. Yeah. Kind of that sort of comedy, which is like, oh, I don't know if that's a movie that I want to see. And obviously Disney have gone, hey guys, look, this is not happening. The other thing that I read, which was quite surprising, is that they got Alden Ehrenreich an acting coach, which they said is not like a big thing if they're doing it at the start of the production to kind of help him sort of get into the character and do all that sort of thing. But they did it like halfway through the production. So he got halfway through, they went, fuck, this is not working, but we can't recast. And so then they got him an acting coach.
That's interesting. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I do really trust the people behind it. And I think that's mostly why I wanted to talk about this, was because a lot of the comments that I read on, especially like on nerd sites and in the talkbacks and stuff, which really, like, why would you go in there in the first place? But are quite negative about, like, Kathleen Kennedy as producer and this idea of, oh, well, they hire these people, but then they don't let them direct. But I feel there's absolutely nothing...
It's still got to be a Star Wars movie.
It has to be. You would be
it can't be Ace Ventura
if it was anything less than a Star Wars film. It needs to fit in. There needs to be a house style. And I think, the advantage is you get people who come in and can really work with actors and can really bring something special out. But it's still, just like the Marvel movies have to feel like Marvel movies, this has to feel like Star Wars. And I think, the amount of times I read about people dissing Kathleen Kennedy or talking about her feminist agenda or all sorts of bullshit, it's like that should be beneath you, because that's nothing to do with what this is about. And she's got such a great track record beyond Star Wars as well, and I've loved what's come out so far. And I think they've got what's best. And I think, they did take some chances on directors, but I think that they're going to probably have learned a lot through this experience and are going to start reining people in. Like, I think it'll be clear as people come in that there is a certain criteria that they have to meet. Because there was that talk as well about Colin Trevorrow, who's directing Episode 9, who did, what's that, a movie?
Book of Henry?
Book of Henry, which apparently is awful. So there's this idea of, is he going to fuck up Episode 9? Is he going to be able to do it, or is it another Josh Trank situation? But you got to remember that Colin Trevorrow delivered Jurassic World, which is such a studio film.
Yeah.
It's such a do what I'm told and get the product out, which, we want more than that from Star Wars. But then I think Star Wars has that special spark where people bring their A game anyway. So I'm glad it's Ron Howard. And I also think that we shouldn't forget that the other person that was working on this film that was feeling that it was going in the wrong direction was Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote the film and wrote, little films like Empire Strikes Back. So this is a guy that really knows and loves that character. And I find that really strange as well when people are going, oh, I don't know why they should be made, etc. They're going to fuck it up. Like, you've got Lawrence Kasdan there. They're doing the right things. So I don't know why you wouldn't give it the benefit of the doubt, at least.
I think if we've learnt anything from Rogue One, it's that Disney, like, they know what they're doing. Like, if they step in and go, hey, something's not right, then they have the ability to fix it.
Well, this isn't unprecedented either. It feels like a big deal and it feels weird, but let's not forget that Edgar Wright, who everybody loves, went off Ant-Man as well quite late in the game. And that didn't really affect it. And it doesn't mean that Edgar Wright shit, or it just wasn't the right
it wasn't the right fit, yeah.
He went on to do things that were the right fit. They got Peyton Reed in, who fit what they wanted to do better, and they made a movie that fit into the whole Marvel thing. So, don't know. I think the track record so far is pretty good. So,
speaking of fitting into the Marvel thing, I know we're not like going to talk about Supanova, but David Wenham told a pretty interesting story because people were asking him all about Iron Fist, and he was being very polite, but it was clear that he didn't really want to talk about Iron Fist very much. And he said that his experience of getting that job was he got a call from his agent. They said, hey, do you want to be in a Marvel thing? You're going to be a villain. They can't tell you anything else. It's a yes or no right now, and you need to be there in 2 days. And he was like, it wasn't an immediate yes, but he said yes anyway, because he was like, well, why the hell not? And probably there was some nice cash dollars attached. But
he could have been Paste Pot Pete, he could have been Stilt Man.
Yeah, and so he turned up for it, and he said that the actors were always the last ones to get the scripts, and they had barely any time to learn what they were doing before they were doing it. And that there was no room for him to bring anything to the character, really. It was turn up, do your job, go home.
Yeah, right.
It was like, do what is in the script, and that is it.
Did they provide lunch, or was he happy just eating the scenery?
Probably, yeah. They were like, oh, what was your favourite bit to film? And he's like, oh, I don't know. The bits where I was, like, sitting on a couch, I guess, like, you know. It was just whatever.
Poor Wenno. Gosh. There we go. There's some coughs. I'm not going to edit that out.
It's some
we're doing our best here.
Some authentic coughing. No, David Wenham was actually really good. But we're not talking about Supanova. So anyway, moving on.
Yeah. And just while we're on the Marvel thing, the Venom. So there's a Venom movie. Tom Hardy. He's going to be going up against Carnage.
All right.
Which is
the big red one.
Red skinny Venom. Little red one.
Yep.
He's like a serial killer guy.
Okay.
Yeah, who becomes a thing. So there'll be a lot of black goo, a lot of red goo, a lot of black goo wrapped around red goo. And,
sounds fun.
I don't know if they got overexcited because of this idea of, oh, Tom Hardy is Venom, and everyone went, oh, yeah, okay, no, that sounds good. Now they're talking about other solo movies for Spider-Man villains. We're talking about Mysterio getting his own movie. Now, this is the guy, fishbowl on the head.
Yes, okay.
He's an illusionist.
Illusions?
Yeah. So probably be played by, like, Jesse Eisenberg?
Yeah.
Maybe, or...
Yeah.
So I don't know about that. And Craven the Hunter.
Oh, right. Okay,
yeah.
Right.
I feel like if you don't have Spider-Man and stuff, does a guy that wears a lion vest and goes around and shooting animals, does that even really feel like a superhero movie?
Maybe it'll be like a right-wing movie of him just going out on safari and just hunting elephants and posing with them and stuff.
I feel like he's been portrayed as Australian in a couple of things, so maybe we could get Wertho or someone to...
Oh, yeah, it'd be bloody perfect.
Put on a moustache. Yeah. He would they'd take him down to a lion sanctuary and
like
say...
a roo vest or something.
You choose one and rip its face off and put your arms through it. And go out there and hunt some stuff. So, cool. Absolutely fantastic. Can't wait for Craven 2019. I've pre-bought my tickets.
Sweet.
All right, now, speaking of movies that are coming out, I was only thinking the other day that I haven't seen a trailer for Jumanji. Isn't that this year? Then we got the trailer for Jumanji.
That was the trailer.
Fucking Sony. I tell you what, I don't like to be negative about things in advance, and I certainly don't feel like we need to be overly precious about the past. Like, I think, rebooting a movie, taking a concept and sort of running with it again, and whether it works or whatever. Like, I don't blame people for doing it. And I certainly have no great nostalgia or love for the original Jumanji.
I do.
You do? I appreciate crazy monkeys going apeshit. I mean, they're in the kitchen just going nuts. They're in cupboards and stuff, and then they like get in the police car and they're driving around in the police car, and it's like, oh, a monkey in police car? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think it was one of those first movies that I really, and I think we talked about it with like Snowpiercer and stuff like that. It was always that element of what comes next. And that felt like one of the first movies that I saw that it was that real, like, oh my god, what box are we going to unlock here? And it was just that escalating thing. So no, I really, really loved Jumanji as a kid.
Well, I think for me, when you're rebooting something, it's all about premise, right? It's like going, okay, we're going to redo RoboCop. I didn't love the new RoboCop, but the idea is a cop gets injured and he gets put in a robot body, and then he goes off and fights crime as a robot. And, fights a corporation, etc. That's the DNA of that. Or, whatever. Think of another example. I can't think of one. I had one in my head and it's just gone and I don't care. But, I feel they fucked the premise on this. Like, so they've turned it into a video game.
Yeah.
And the people go, like, kids on detention go into the video game where they become avatars like The Rock and stuff. And then they're in the jungle. So the movie is these 4 characters in the jungle. Whereas isn't the whole premise of Jumanji the idea of the jungle bleeding into a domestic situation? Like, it's the jungle coming into the real world and the suburbs and the kind of craziness of that.
I guess they were... I mean, obviously we haven't seen the start of the movie. We don't see how they want to play it out. But I guess the idea is what they want to do is show the world that Robin Williams' character had gone into.
Well, that's just the jungle, though.
Well, it is just the jungle,
Then it's just a jungle movie. You take away the whole idea of the things bleeding into our world.
I think it should have stayed the board game. Like, I understand why they've done the video game, but, like, there's no reason why they couldn't have just found the board game somewhere.
Well, it's just a jungle movie now. Like, how... There's no cupboards in the jungle for monkeys to, like, climb in and out of and throw, like, plates and stuff.
Don't know.
There's no police cars in the jungle for monkeys to, like, get in the police cars and then drive around and go, like, apeshit. Like, that's the funny thing. You take the jungle and you put it into, like, a different... Like, what if you'd gone... like, there's so many ways you could have done this. Like, they could have played the game in a skyscraper. And then, like, it could have been, like, Die Hard meets Jumanji. You know, oh, fuck, like, the elevator doors open and there's a lion and God, did The Rock almost shit his britches. You know, like, that would be amazing. But, nope. They're just in the jungle. Yeah. And, like... I know we all love The Rock, but aren't we getting fucking sick of The Rock? Like, look, what's he doing? He's not doing anything. All those people are not doing anything. Well, like, Jack Black is being Jack Black. Kevin Hart is being... Like, I haven't even seen Kevin Hart movies, and I know he's just being Kevin Hart. Yep. The Rock raises his eyebrow as soon as he goes into the jungle. He's just being The Rock. They're just ciphers. And then you've got Karen Gillan, who looks amazing, but that's her whole shtick, right? The whole fact that she's got her stomach out is pretty much, like, the only thing. So, yeah, wow. I don't like to be negative this early, but...
Jumanji.
Yeah, that's not Jumanji. That's weird.
It is weird. Well...
It's just a jungle.
Whatever, yeah.
Just the jungle.
It is the jungle.
It's just the jungle.
That's why they named the movie after that Guns N' Roses song.
Yeah, welcome to the jungle. Okay, but, like, the jungle is supposed to come to us. We're not going to the jungle. That's the whole point. You bring the jungle to us. Fucked. Okay,
Speaking of fucked.
Yeah. Oh, yes. What's next? Oh, Inhumans. Crikey. So this is ABC's Marvel, The Inhumans, Black Bolt, Medusa, Crystal, Karnak, all on their own TV series finally. And we got our first proper look at it. We've talked about that image of the cast before. Fuck, what happened here?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the most outlandish thing is that they're planning on premiering it at the fucking movies.
Yeah,
what's with that?
It seemed like such a good idea initially because I thought that's great. Like, if that can pay for all the costumes and everything and give you a really sort of bigger budget shot at getting everything in place, then that's great. But this thing looks horribly cheap.
It does, yeah. And it makes me even more worried. Like, I would hate for their I don't know, the Marvel ABC budget to be stretched between two shows when I know S.H.I.E.L.D. is not for everybody, and I understand that, but I think it's pretty solid at the moment, and I would hate for S.H.I.E.L.D. to suffer or get cancelled or something because of fucking Inhumans.
Well, I just don't... Like, it fails on all levels for me because it doesn't have a look or a tone that feels right. None of the characters appear to have any sort of charisma, and there's nothing about them visually that is particularly striking or engaging. But then beyond all that, if you look at the dialogue in that trailer, I mean, I know they're called Inhumans, but they really have taken all the humanity out of these characters. There's people talking about stuff that we don't give a fuck about. Like, talking about these dramas that are so divorced from anybody's experience that you just go, why do I give a shit about you, like any of you, and what you care about? The only cool thing in it is Lockjaw, the dog, but then it doesn't look like they
bulldog.
Use that, but he does look like the big Kirby dog. He's not just like a normal bulldog, he's got crazy proportions, but even then, like, I imagine he's, with it looking that cheap, I imagine he's in it very fleetingly. And, Black Bolt, like the character that if he talks, his voice will destroy things. He's got like a shat himself at the back of the class look on his face all through that trailer. Like, what an uncharismatic dude. And when you think about the fact that Inhumans was originally on Marvel's slate of big budget feature films, it was going to follow Infinity War, I think, and that there was talk of, and look, I think Vin Diesel's a big old potato, but I'd rather see him in a movie version as Black Bolt. There'd be certainly more charisma than what we get in this. So I don't know what happened, like what blackmail ABC had, how that went from being one of their big films to being this thing that's just sort of been swept out under the rug. Like, it's weird. They sold their soul to somebody. So, I 100% agree with you. I think they're absolutely bananas. If, like, before seeing this, I was like, yep, September 1st, great, let's go see this thing at the cinema. Like, no way. Like, this is something you're going to watch on TV. You're going to watch it on YouTube because it looks like balls. So that's really unfortunate. Then we got the trailer for Hugh Jackman's passion project, The Greatest Showman. Yeah,
this has been in the works for a really long time, and I'm pretty sure it's been finished for well over a year. It was initially, I'm pretty sure it was meant to come out last Christmas, but I think the story may have been that because La La Land was coming out, they didn't want to come up against another musical.
Yeah, so this is the P.T. Barnum story. It's got Michelle Williams, Zac Efron.
Yeah, and
obviously he's a song and dance man. That's more meaningful to him than slashing people up as Wolverine. Yes. It's something that he really loves.
Yeah, and it's something that I went to a stage show thing that he did, must have been like 2 years ago now, and he was talking about the movie, and he was talking very passionately about it, and he was really looking forward to it coming out. He did a song from it, actually, and it was really good. So yeah, he's very passionate about this film, and I like the trailer. Like, it's the sort of thing that I like. It is not going to be for everybody. Musicals are not an across-the-board thing for people, but look, it just seems really earnest in a way that I like.
I just think, as a trailer for a musical, show me a fucking musical number. Like, you want to sell me on a musical? Show me some music. Like, what is it afraid of? It's like a musical that's ashamed of being a musical.
Well, musicals aren't popular. So if you make it too musically, people aren't going to go and see it. Show more Hugh Jackman and Zac Efron and people go, oh yeah, maybe I'll go and see it.
Yeah, but then they're going to go and see a musical because I assume it is a musical.
Yeah, well then they've paid their fucking ticket, haven't they? So who cares?
Yeah, just crazy. Just don't, when a trailer is already apologising for being what it's being, that concerns me. But there you go. Whew, not very happy campers today. And then Foreigner, Jackie Chan.
Yeah, Jackie Chan is going all Liam Neeson in Taken and wanting the names of some IRA terrorists who... there was a bombing or something in a town and his daughter got killed, and now he wants to wreak Jackie Chan revenge.
I'm amazed that this is the director of Casino Royale because it just goes to show you how the mighty can fall. Because it doesn't look nearly as slick, shall we say, or epic as that film. And Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan are looking old.
Well, yes, Jackie Chan is very old.
Yeah, he's like 97?
Not quite, but he still does all his own work, all his own stunts and everything. So bloody good on him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it now, let alone at his age.
But apart from that kick, like, this isn't like the trailer for Rumble in the Bronx or something. He's not doing a hell of a lot there.
Yeah, but he's a very elderly man. I'm sure there's more in the movie. But, I didn't mind it. I mean, keep Jackie Chan in work. It's better for him to be in something like this than, Shanghai Nights 3 or something.
Yeah. And God, Pierce Brosnan too. He's a good grey, wispy, withered man. Gosh.
I always thought that he'd be, he'd end up a bit of a silver fox, but no, not really.
Mortality. How depressing. I'm sorry for this episode. Okay, let's lift the tone by reviewing Transformers 5: The Last Night. I feel like there needs to be some context here. I really quite liked the first Transformers movie.
So did I. I did too, yes.
I think that there's a sort of interesting journey there, and you're getting the magic of watching these things transform and seeing Optimus Prime on the big screen for the first time. And
I think for me, and it's a way I judge a lot of movies about things that I have no interest in. It's, do you make me care about the thing that I have no interest in? And Transformers 1, yes.
Yeah, and I feel like it's so, and it sounds like a crazy thing to say, but you appreciate after watching a movie like this one and that sort of sliding scale of these movies, that first one is so coherent by comparison, which I know people would be like, that's not a word you would associate with any Transformers movie. But by comparison, like, it actually has a through line. I mean, it's got a MacGuffin and all that sort of stuff, but you're very aware of what's happening the whole time, and you're following a certain journey, whereas this film is so scattershot in just that sounds like a good name for a Decepticon if it hasn't been used, in just every aspect that it was my breaking point, finally. Like, I had some dumb fun with the fourth one. I remember there were parts where I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But this one, I can't defend at all. And I have defended Michael Bay in the past, not because I'm a fan of his filmmaking, but because people say, oh, shit, he can't do this, he can't do that, etc. And I think that we got to be fair and truthful with our criticism all the time. And I think the fact is with Michael Bay, in terms of doing these huge epic action blockbusters, the reason he gets to continue making them is because it is a rare skill. Like, he's a conductor of a massive, massive orchestra. And when you see all the moving parts that are in these films, it's a rare person that can come in and command that. And here is somebody who is very confident and can do that. So while the material doesn't always appeal to me, and while I think the scripts have often been absolutely awful, I see his contribution in sort of orchestrating those things and putting them on the screen and making them happen harder to fault, because I think he does the job that he's hired to do, and he does it well. This was the first time, though, where I can't even give him that. Like, if you look at this third act, and in terms of the action, I don't think that action is well directed at all, because it's so incoherent.
Yeah, you don't know where you are in the landscape of the battle.
There's no geography,
ever,
you're right.
Yeah.
And it's cutting back and forth between a lot of different things, which is something that, like, Star Wars does pretty much in the third act of every film now. But if you look at something like Rogue One, and I think we talked about this at the time, it has a very clear geography. Even just all the establishing shots of where everything's going to take place, and also even the way that the space battle is choreographed. You've got a real sense of this is where they have to get to, and they have to pass through here, and these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. You know everything that's happening. What I found in this film is that he doesn't give anything room to breathe, and there's nothing that you follow through to completion. That third act battle, which is lots of explosion, lots of action, lots of robots, and you would think would be enough to go, okay, well, that will be entertaining enough, in the same way that I think like the big city battle at the end of Transformers 3 with Shockwave is actually quite watchable and quite inventive. This is like 95% humans. And did you notice, like, minor spoilers here, like the dragon transformer forms, for example, and you go, okay, let's watch this do some stuff.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to about 20 other unrelated shots.
Yeah.
And you never go, okay, now this dragon comes out and that's important and we're going to follow the dragon and we're going to see what the dragon does and we're going to... It never does that.
No, it disappears. It comes back later, randomly.
And it's the same with the Autobots. You'll see some shots of them, or you'll see a shot of them all standing together, and then instead of showing what they do next and how they integrate into the battle, it's 20 sweaty shots of soldiers and Marky Mark and all this other stuff. And then there might be one shot of the Autobots doing something, and then it cuts to something else, and you never, ever have any momentum. Like, you never feel like you are watching an actual piece of action play through from start to finish. Like, and it was tedious. Like, I just couldn't get invested in it at all. It was just nonsense. So,
So have I been punished enough?
yeah, well, Christ. Like, I think, well, you know you're not going to get out of the next one because it's going to be Bumblebee in the 80s with Haley Steinfeld.
I will only watch that if there is another Fast and the Furious movie to watch.
Oh, well, there is going to be.
That is the bargain.
It'll probably be...
If I have to suffer through this garbage, you can suffer through my family movies.
If we're lucky, we'll get the Bumblebee spin-off and we'll get, like, a Statham Rock spin-off. And then it'll be a little bit less damage. So... yeah, so it fails as an action movie. Story-wise, I know that, like, there was talks, didn't all the writers go off on some big weekend and plot out the next few Transformers movie? They must have had peyote or been licking, like, hallucinogenic frogs or something, because this story is the biggest jumble of just crazy bullshit that it is so desperate to alienate the audience. Like, I feel that... I know people have said before that the Transformers movies have contempt for their audience, but this was the first time I really felt that. Because nothing connects in a meaningful way.
And even them trying to build human relationships and stuff like that, like between the people, was so... we genuinely don't care about this, but we feel like we need to do something.
Was there any character at all in this film that you liked?
No. Oh, there was one, but they weren't a person.
Cogman. Okay, let's go through some of these people.
Cogman was the worst, but at least he made me laugh a couple of times.
This, again, is when we talk about just being true to the premise. I mean, the premise of Transformers is robots on Earth in disguise. And they hide themselves by turning into vehicles that we use and then come out of that. And again, like, if you look at how that's used in that first movie, like, even just when the jets are in the first movie flying over the dam or something, and then Starscream suddenly turns into a robot, grabs one of the jets, smashes it, and then turns back into a plane again, and, you know, that sort of thing is so cool. There's nothing like this. This movie has Optimus Prime in it. You do not see Optimus Prime transform in this film.
No, you don't.
How can you have a Transformers film? And Cogman. Okay, Cogman is Anthony Hopkins' butler, referred to by one of the other robots as a, like, C-3PO ripoff.
Yeah.
He's weirdly proportioned. Like, he's 4 feet or something with his human proportion.
Yeah.
So he always looks weird. And he's voiced by...
not Bates. Carson from Downton Abbey. I was trying to think of his real name, then I'm like, I don't know his real name. God.
So he's a butler robot, and he is the butler of Anthony Hopkins, and he actually is the Transformer with the most screen time and the most dialogue.
Yes.
Because you would think that they would learn from the movies that they've made before and the criticisms, and they would make a movie that was actually about Transformers. But this really isn't. Again, it's all about the humans. So Cogman goes along on the journey, and I guess because he's one of the more articulate ones, he has a lot of screen time. But he's a Transformer that doesn't transform. He never transforms.
Maybe he'll transform in the next movie, because they're sure as shit setting up for that.
What do you think he would transform into? Like a giant... dildo that reams the audience?
No, like a big old Bae Marie or something.
tea set.
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
The drinks cart.
He certainly doesn't have any noticeable bits on him. Like, he's not like a Transformer that's got wheels or doors or stuff hanging off him. So, God knows. Did you notice that the script is kind of on a loop in that film? Like, everybody has the same voice. There are certain phrases and things that just continually happen and are shared amongst characters from completely different backgrounds. Like, the one thing that struck me was the word shit is used about 50 times in this film in all variety of contexts. And it's a great word to sum up the film, but everybody says it just all the time, whether it's Hopkins, Cogman, the Americans, whoever. It's just...
And everyone was saying bitch
Yes, that's the other one. The bitch is used, and you don't hear bitch used very often anymore.
No.
And bitch is thrown around by a lot of different characters. Even Cogman uses bitch.
Yeah.
And they're not picking it up off each other. They're in different scenes. Dickhead's used by one English person and one American person.
Yeah, robot
robot.
uses it too,
At various times as well. So a lot of people just using these same very basic, pushing the same button each time, but different characters.
Yeah.
So the idea that someone at some point has sat down, whether it was the writers, whether it was a Bay, whoever, said, we need to have... It's really funny when people they call each other bitch. We've got to put that in more. Like, it's really strange.
And they're also, like... The movies are still racist. Like, they're still weirdly racist for being in 2017. Like, a lot of the robots, after the criticism of the racist twins from the second one, there's still a lot of, like, really weird stereotype robots. And the bit that just made me go, oh, for fuck's sakes, why did this even happen, is when Gil Birmingham, wonderful Native American actor Gil Birmingham, is there on a horse. Spoilers, but, like, this is fucked. And Wahlberg rolls up to him and he's like, oh, hey, Chief, you're really going with that Indian thing, aren't you? And I'm just like, oh, what are you doing? Like, why is that a decision? Why does that get celebrated? Gil Birmingham, put him in the movie for 5 minutes to be racist at him. And then they just kind of make a bit of a joke of like, oh man, you shouldn't say that. That's a bit racist. Ha ha ha, racism. And then off he goes. Like,
now let's cut to the samurai Transformer.
Yes.
It's the same deal with calling out Britishness. Like, it seems impossible. I complained with Rough Night. I'm complaining with this. That, again, there's also two other separate characters that in probably about a 10-minute period, like, he says something like, you English woman or something like that to her. And then someone else does it to Anthony Hopkins or something. Says, like, you something English man. Like, and they're in England. But this calling out of difference. I had to stop listening to the last comedy Bang Bang, which had Edgar Wright on it, just because Scott could not get around... British people talk like this. You say this, you say that. And Edgar Wright's being really polite about it and sort of riffing with him. But it's just like, for fuck's sake. And especially when it comes from this authoritative, like, you're doing it wrong. It's like, they're English! They're speaking English!
And the thing that was giving me the shits too is that, I think we've spoken about it before, the celebration of uneducation.
Yes.
Where the female character is like a professor, a doctor. She is like, she has studied all of this stuff, and Marky Mark quotes one line from a book and he's like, yeah, and I don't have any, like, student debts. Boom. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
He quotes that Arthur C. Clarke about technology being indistinguishable from magic, and she goes, very impressive. And he's like, yeah, professor or what, teacher or whatever you are, and I've got 0 student loans, count them. Like, yeah, fuck you with your education. It's like, holy shit.
So gross.
It is really gross. It's a really ugly film. And you notice that, speaking about the script being on a loop, you don't have extended dialogue scenes with Transformers. They basically just react to things.
Yeah.
But when they do talk, the writers have nothing for them to say. Like, they have no concept of building a character there. Optimus Prime, when
all he says is, I am Optimus Prime.
He says it at least 3 times. He says, I am Optimus Prime. And he said, when he's bad, he says, I am Nemesis Prime at
Yeah.
least twice. And that's a big part of his dialogue. He just repeats the same stuff. Like, look at Megatron as a character in this thing. There's just nothing there at all. It's such a hollow, empty mess. And
for a movie about history, it sure fucking hates history. And I don't mean that in the way that about facts or whatever. I'm not expecting facts here. But they're like, the bit that hurt me the most, personally hurt me, is there a bit where they're in the dad's office and they're looking for something. And so they are just, he has all these like historical artifacts and like trinkets and paintings and stuff, and they trash it all. And I'm like, no, why would you do that? That killed me.
And also...
And they're fighting at Stonehenge, and I'm like, if you fucking blow up Stonehenge, then,
And Marky Mark has fucking horrible hair.
He does have bad
in this
hair.
thing. It's so bad. He looks awful. Yeah, it's a real low point.
Yeah, it's a low point in an already pretty low series of movies.
And, you know, this is the second week out, and we saw it at 9:45, and the cinema was pretty full.
9:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
And the cinema was... I've never seen a cinema that full at the place where we go.
Yeah, and that's not even the weekend of release, so buckle up for more. And I guess we're part of the problem, but at least I don't think many of our listeners are going to see this film.
I would hope not. I would recommend not. Don't go and see it at the cinema.
Even the things that are kind of almost interesting are just so tacked on, and like, why are there baby Dinobots?
Yeah, that was not explained at all.
Like, they're cool to look at, but they're just in the periphery. I don't know why they're there. Are they going to grow up and be big, or what's going to happen? They look like, you know, let's make some toys here, but I haven't seen toys of them, so I don't know what's going on there. The whole thing's just a crazy...
Yeah, there's a few parts for me that were just... There was a point where it was just getting so bad that I was almost starting to just enjoy how awful it was. But then it would get, like, bad again, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not kind of into this. If it was shorter, I might have got a bit more out of it, but it just dragged, and, you know, it's just, it's not a fun time. I'm already not invested in this franchise, and it's just really pushing the friendship.
And God, like, Anthony Hopkins will just do anything, right?
He will.
Yeah. 'Cause we haven't even talked about the fact that this is all about the idea that Transformers were around in Merlin Lancelot times.
Yep.
And left a MacGuffin-y control staff thing.
Yeah.
And, wow. And there's a sword and...
Yeah.
It's just so tone deaf. Anyway, that's Transformers. Don't see it. The end. Alright, look, let's just wrap some things up with a couple of positives. These are some things that I saw that I thought were really worth seeing. I'm not going to review them properly or go into any big details because I know you haven't seen stuff and I'd rather talk about it when you have. But just a reminder that Okja is on Netflix. This is
the Korean hippo movie.
Yeah, the ham horse. This is the film by the director of Snowpiercer. Netflix exclusive, starring Tilda Swinton and Jake Gyllenhaal, Paul Dano. And I watched it last night. It's very beautifully made. I'll save some of my thoughts on it. I didn't love it, but it's definitely worth watching, and might have even made me a vegetarian, I'm not sure, which is a pretty bold statement. But do check that out, and we'll talk about that properly when you've had a chance to see it. But if you got Netflix, that's free, and it's not going to be as nearly as horrible as Transformers, so definitely give that a shot. And TV-wise, while I've been sick, I've been watching a ton of shit. Things I just want to mention as recommendations. Glow on Netflix as well. Alison Brie, glamorous ladies of wrestling. You started this. You weren't too big a fan, no?
Oh, I thought you were going to cough.
I'm going to cough, but I'm going to cough quietly while you're talking.
Oh, I thought you were going to cough enough so you could cut it out.
No, I'm not cutting anything. I just want to cut myself out of this show.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I watched the first two and I wasn't really loving it. I know that with a lot of these shows, you need to give them probably 4 or 5 before you get really invested. So I'm sure I will go back to it. Everyone is raving about it. but I'm not in love with it. And that second episode, people did sort of warn that it was a bit rough. They do make a lot of miscarriage jokes and talk about miscarriage in a way that's kind of a little bit hard to get through, but apparently it does get much better after that. So I will push on at some point.
I think women are allowed to talk about miscarriage. I thought it was... I don't know, I love that you've got these female voices. I really enjoyed it. I like the characters a lot. There is a bit of an Orange is the New Black vibe, which makes sense considering where this thing comes from, but... I didn't find myself, and maybe it was because I was all cold and fluey, but I didn't find it sort of laugh out loud funny in terms of the dialogue, as I have found things like Orange is the New Black, but I was invested all the way through, and I think it is an amazing performance from Alison Brie, particularly when she starts to play around with her characters for the wrestling, and she has some where we're both starting to really die out. I haven't talked for 50 minutes. Like when she finds that, she's got some really great monologues, and I'll be very surprised if she's not at least nominated for all the Emmys, Golden Globe things. And finally, a shout out to I Love Dick. Do you know about I Love Dick?
I know about I Love Dick. I've seen a little clip of it. Who's the like hot guy in it? The
Dick. Yeah. Okay. There's just been an edit point there. Just keeps coughing and has left. So I've been told to finish this up by myself. It wouldn't be the first time a lady has told me that. Can you hear that siren? That's just interleaving in the ambulance, I assume. Anyway, I Love Dick stars Catherine Hahn as well. She becomes obsessed and in love with her husband's writing sort of professor coach guy. And they're only half-hour episodes. There's not a huge amount of them. I think there's like maybe 8 episodes in the first season, something like that. But really clever writing. Definitely stick with it. I didn't love it straight away, but it just got better and better as it went, and as it all sort of unfolded. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think there's some really wonderful, open, honest things there that I wasn't expecting that really kind of moved me. I think there are female voices there that we don't get to hear very often on TV, and some really interesting insights. And I also particularly like the fact that it's a bit of a reversal on the idea of, you've seen a lot of films and TV shows where men find a muse in a woman and become obsessed with a woman and use them as the impetus for creating their art, and we're often supposed to sympathize with that and feel like there's some sort of noble thing there. And to see a woman sort of do this to a man, to sort of see it from the other side and see just how intrusive and unwanted this can be, I thought was really interesting. So that's I Love Dick. Please don't isolate me saying I love Dick and making it your ringtone or anything like that, or making like an electronic pop song with it. It's really difficult to do by myself, so I'm going to get out of here, but I do encourage you more than ever, do like, rate, review, do all those things. It's not for us, it's for the opportunities that we get if you do that. But go to fruitlesspursuits.com. That's where you'll find links to everything except for probably the Instagram, which you will have to search for. Instagram's my favorite because you can see pictures of toys and things I buy, and my Ray and Black Widow collection and all that fun stuff. But yeah, you'll also find a link to our Facebook group, our discussion group, and always love it when you guys talk about stuff and share things, and especially give feedback on the show. That's always great. I read every single bit. So thanks so much. Apologize for Jacinta not being tough enough to man out the rest of the show and cough up a lung outside. But yeah. Hopefully we'll be feeling better next week. I'm not sure what's coming up next. I think that it is Spider-Man. Oh, that's exciting. So, Spider-Man coming out. Now, if you're wondering about Baby Driver, if you're in America, we don't have it yet. We're getting it the week after Spider-Man. So, next week, Spider-Man, a week after Baby Driver. So, everybody take care. Thanks for listening. Hopefully, we'll have a more upbeat, fun, positive show next time. Love all your butts and Camelot. Bye.